Today's episode is brought to you by Mazars.
SoundCartel.
Are you a company director? And if so, have you applied for your new identification number? If not, you'd better be fast, because you could face penalties if you're not registered by the 30th of November 2022. From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. The new Director ID scheme is being set up by the Australian Tax Office in an attempt to combat fraud. And Robin Hayes is in charge of the onboarding process. He starts by explaining to Jeff Waters why the new system is necessary.
Director identification is an identifier which helps the public understand who the people are behind companies. Individuals need to prove who they are and verify their identity with the ABRS in order to obtain a director identification number or a director ID. Director ID will certainly help prevent illegal activity like illegal phoenixing.
What's illegal phoenixing?
Illegal phoenixing is where companies take deliberate steps to move their assets to other entities, wind up their operations, and in many cases leave unpaid debts to creditors, unpaid employee entitlements, unpaid taxes.
So this whole thing sounds like it's being set up by the government to protect both the consumer and the contractors working for these companies that deliberately go broke.
That's correct. There are also benefits for regulators who will be able to understand the relationships of directors and companies over time.
So who needs to apply for this new registry?
All company directors. So there are many types of company directors in Australia, and that may include directors of corporate trustees of self-managed superannuation funds, directors of charities and not-for-profit organisations, and even directors of large incorporated associations that are registered with the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, like large sporting organisations that trade outside of their state or territory.
Goodness, so it's a big new initiative if that's the case. Who doesn't have to apply? Does this apply to people like sole traders or partnerships?
No, those who are sole traders don't need to apply. The ABRS website has a pretty detailed explanation as to who does need to apply, and of course those who don't need to apply.
And can I get my tax agent to just look after this for me?
Unfortunately not. It is up to the individual to prove their identity to the registrar before a director identification number can be issued. The whole centrepiece around director identification is verifying the bona fides of an individual, and therefore it is up to the individual to prove their own identity.
If you want a business advisor that walks with you and not just talks with you, then Mazars is the right fit for your business. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.
All right, so let me just go through this again. It's every director of every company in the country, in Australia, including people on charity or not-for-profit boards and elected members of a childcare board or a golf club or anything like that. Is that correct?
No, the director identification obligation extends to those who are directors only. So there are a number of ways that individuals can find out whether they're a director, and it is one of the biggest challenges that we face in getting the director identification messaging out to the public, is that many people who are serving as a part of a board or a community organisation may not understand what their role is and may not understand that they might actually be a director. They may need to search the ASIC companies register to understand if they are a part of an organisation that is registered, first of all, and secondly, whether they are a director of that entity. They can also search the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission Charities Register. It too details the information of directors. And for those directors of Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander corporations, of course, ORIC, The regulator for those particular entities also has search functionality available through their website.
So the 30th of November is approaching pretty quickly. What are the steps that I need to take to apply?
There are 3 steps for those people who are applying online. The first step is to download the MyGov ID app to a smart device and then follow the steps that are outlined on the abrs.gov.au website. They include answering some questions that the Australian Taxation Office knows about the individuals, things like their bank account details, their residential address, the details of their own personal superannuation fund, that type of information. Then they move on to complete the Director ID application by confirming their email address and some other personal details. They complete a declaration. And once they've submitted that application, they are instantly provided with their Director Identification number. Now, there are options available for those who don't have a smart device, who are unable to interact online, or for one reason or another are not able to obtain a MyGov ID. They can call the ABRS on 13 62 50, providing that the applicant is an Australian resident and has suitable identification available. The operators at the ABRS will attempt to provide their Director Identification number over the phone. For non-residents and for others who are unable to apply over the phone, we do have the option of a paper application form. For those directors who are residing overseas, there is an application form available from the ABRS website, abrs.gov.au. For Australian residents, we'd certainly like to try to get them through the phone application in the first instance. If we're unable to do that, we will actually send out a paper form for that applicant to complete.
That was Robin Hayes, the Director of Director ID Onboarding for the Australian Business Registry Services. For more information about who needs to apply for a Director ID and by when, head to the link for the Australian Business Registry Services in the show notes of this episode. Business Essentials Daily is a SoundCartel podcast. Producers are Nick Schildberger, Chris Ashmore, Jeff Waters and myself. Technical production by Pete Letts. I'm Nicole Goodman. Thanks for listening. We'll bring you more Be Daily next week. SoundCartel. This episode was brought to you by Mazars. To find out more, visit mazars.com.au. That's mazars.com.au.